webinar.
Sure.
So that's a nice this thing, and also I welcome all about 16 participants to this call. And I mean, there are various issues, but of late, because of this technology, because of this overload of information, people are very much aware of what is happening all over. So, because internet has brought all of us together, the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam word has become a global village.
Yeah.
So everyone knows what is happening elsewhere. So basically, me rannattu in the Telugu English,
both Anna. Maybe
both,
some
both.
might be.
Yeah. So my issue is, because we all live in a democracy. Maybe you in America and we in India, we all live in democracy. For democracy, people whom we elect, they make a very important contribution. They decide our course of life, and they decide many things, particularly the public policies. So the people whom we are electing are very, very important. But if you see, especially back here, there are so many other considerations on which the people get elected. Maybe the caste, religion, and money. So there are so many things which are impacting the whole election process and also the process of democracy. So I always advocate, just by changing players, things are not going to improve. Suppose if you want a better game, so you need to change the rules of the game. So if you want to have a better democracy, you need to bring in more reforms. They are the election reforms. So when the whole election world, or when the whole psyche of people is marred with so many assumptions and presumptions, and also not many people voting, so this is ultimately leading to the formation of vote banks. So the vote bank can be either on the caste, either on religion, or by luring the voters by paying them money. So there are so many things which create vote banks. So actually, if you see politicians also, they like people to vote less. That means less number of people to vote, so that they can protect their vote bank and they can come to power. So if such is the case, then what we can do as citizens and as people who believe in democracy. So then I always say we need to go for electoral reforms. There are many electoral reforms which have come in the past. Mostly, I tell you, the electoral reforms have come because of the intervention of the constitutional courts. Majority of the time, it is the Supreme Court. So I have made a small presentation. I mean, maybe it may take about 5 minutes or 10 minutes about the electoral reforms and what we have brought so far and what we need to do in future. So our idea is to see that these electoral reforms are discussed by people, and also the Election Commission of India also should consider them. And also we are planning to file a public interest litigation in the Supreme Court, so that the electoral reforms become a reality. So I'll try to put you to the
Sure.
Electoral reforms. A small PowerPoint presentation I have prepared. Let me just bring it on to this thing.
I think Anna dropped out. Let's wait for Anna to join back.
I think he wants to present something, Srikanth.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to give him permission, I guess, to present.
I made him co-host already.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So maybe there is an internet issue, I think. Let's wait.
I think Shrikant bhai, until like he joins, please stop the recording.
Okay, sure. I'll just pause.
So some of the reforms which we are saying. So let us divide the whole thing into two phases. Electoral reforms which were introduced prior to 2000 and election reforms which have come after 2000. The first reform you can see is the lowering of the voting age from 21 to 18 years. We have brought it through the 61st amendment to the Constitution. Then there is another thing, electoral reform which has come, deputation to election commission. Generally, what used to happen earlier is all the personnel who are working in preparing and correcting the electoral rolls, they used to work under the state governments. So state governments used to have a lot of influence on them to include few voters or to exclude few voters. So then the reform which was brought is, during the time of election, all the people who are involved in the process of electioneering, they are on deputation to election commission. So election commission can take any decisions, maybe transferring people, maybe suspending people, maybe getting more people into the electoral work. This is another reforms. Next is increase in the number of proposers, because a lot of people started contesting. So in order to discourage them, so they said the increase in the number of proposers and the security deposit has been increased. Then, of course, EVMs have been introduced in the year 1998 during the state elections of Delhi, and now EVMs have become the order of the day. But many people have a lot of doubts on these EVMs.
Yeah.
So a lot of discussion takes place, especially people who lose elections, they always blame the EVMs. They say because of EVMs we lost, but when they win, they say democracy has won. So this is what is the dichotomy we generally see. But generally EVM machines, because you are all in the technical field, I mean, I need not have to educate you. These EVMs are not standalone machines. They are not connected to the internet or anything. It's a standalone machine which is kept in a polling booth. People come and they press their preference, and then it gets into the account of that particular party or the candidate. Now, what happens is, because of this lot of doubts being expressed on the EVMs, so what they introduce now is called VVPAT, Voter Verifiable Paper Trail. That means when I enter the polling booth and press the EVM on, say, party A, then for 2 seconds, a paper slip appears in front of me of my choice in this VVPAT. Then after 2 seconds, it gets dropped. So this is how it is. So after the election, after the poll, the EVMs and VVPATs are kept in safe custody. Just before counting, what they do is, for each assembly constituency, they randomly pick up 2 EVMs and the same VVPATs. So they physically count the paper trail slips and they come to a conclusion which candidate got how many votes. Then the same things get verified on the EVM also. So of all the polling booths which were there in the country, this exercise was done and nowhere the discrepancy was seen. So what the VVPAT count is giving and what EVM is giving. So EVM's manipulation, somehow I do not subscribe to that theory, because many people say you can manipulate it through the some military frequencies and other things they say. But I mean, nobody could prove it. So, but actually, many people blame the EVMs. But also, if you see the country, the size of the country, and also the population, so I think EVMs is the best solution. Now, I mean, when I make my presentation of what we are seeing as electoral reforms, I will discuss about the EVMs also, or the period of election also. Then, The other reforms which we are talking, disqualification on conviction for violating the National Honours Act, restriction on contesting from more than 2 constituencies. Earlier, people used to contest from many constituencies.
Yeah.
Like if you see N.T. Ramarao Garu, he contested from 3 constituencies, 1 from each area. Now the restriction is people can contest only from 2 constituencies. Then death of a contesting candidate. Previously, what used to happen is the election was countermanded on the death of the contesting candidates. Then what they said is no election will be countermanded on the death of a contesting candidate if the deceased candidate, however, was set up by a recognized national or state party. Then the party concerned will be given an option to nominate another candidate within 7 days of the issue of notice to the effect to the party concerned by Election Commission. It is prohibited by law to go in for so what happens is earlier a lot of these politics used to take place, and if they want to countermand the election, what they used to do is they used to kill a candidate. So that they said it will not take place. So that has reduced this poll violence also. Then prohibition on sale of liquor, of course, on these 48 hours, there is no liquor sale, and time limit for by-elections. So as you mentioned, by-elections to any House of Parliament or state legislation will not be held within 6 months of the occurrence of the vacancy. So minimum 6 months time is required. The period of campaigning also has been reduced. So this is pre-2000. Now let us come to post-2000, what reforms have taken place. Next is ceiling on election expenditure. Earlier, what used to happen is the candidates were allowed to spend as much as they can. But now they have brought a ceiling on election expenditure. Now it is 70 lakhs. I think yesterday only the Election Commission has revised it and they made it as, I think, 97 lakhs or so for Parliament. And I think around 40 lakhs or so for the Assembly election. Then restriction on exit polls. Generally, what happens is, till the final elections or final phase of elections are over, you should not result in exit polls, because nowadays polling is held in different phases. Earlier, what used to happen is they used to announce the exit poll after the first round or the first phase. That used to have severe impact on the mindset of the voters. So what they said is there should not be any exit polls. Then voting through postal ballots. In 2013, the postal ballot system was introduced because especially people, say for example, army personnel, they are deployed, they can't come to their constituency for voting. So they were given the postal ballot facility, and also the people who are on election duty also. Then of course, awareness creation has started. From every 25th January, we call it as a National Voters Day. And Election Commission keeps on creating awareness among the voters. And also the election political parties need to report any contribution in excess of 20,000 to the EC for claiming income tax benefit. That is one thing. Then declaration of criminal antecedents assets by the candidates is required. So if any candidate is contesting, he is supposed to give his any cases registered against him, and also what are his assets. So this has become mandatory. So all the candidates, and also in the another judgment, what the Supreme Court said is, even the political parties also have to say why they have allowed a candidate with criminal background to contest. Did they not have any other alternative? This also they are supposed to mention in their website of the party. So these are all being done to get some reforms and make the democracy a reality. Now, what election reforms we are proposing? Now, what we are proposing is, generally what happens is the Prime Minister, CMs, ministers, they come on campaign. Once an election is announced, now you see Karnataka elections are announced. Now, most of the time, the Prime Minister, the other cabinet ministers, the chief minister, and many of them, they remain busy in the election campaign. But actually, the PMs and CMs and ministers are responsible for good governance. So what we are suggesting is, don't allow these people to campaign. If they want to campaign, let them quit these jobs, let them join, let them take up the party posts and then do it. So this is one thing we are doing, because recently, if you see the Munugodu elections in Telangana, so all the ministers, they were made in charges of mandal levels. So they were camping for 15-20 days in those places, and they have totally kept this governance aside. So this is one reform which we are proposing. And then there is a post called Chief Electoral Officer. There is a state election commissioner and a chief electoral officer. This chief electoral officer is the representative of election commission in the state. But usually what happens is the CO is from the same state, IAS officer from the same state. So whatever you say, there will be influence by the ruling party of the state. So what we are proposing is, let this chief electoral officer be from other state. For 5 years, you get on deputation one officer who is not a native of that state, and also who is not from the state cadre. So this is another, so that to ensure neutrality and also to ensure impartiality, we are proposing this electoral reforms. Then electoral reforms, what we are saying is, the present Representation of People's Act 1951 says, whoever is convicted for 2 years, then he will be disqualified. So all of you have seen Mr. Rahul Gandhi's case. He has been convicted by a Surat court for 2 years on defamation. So now he is disqualified. So generally what we are talking is, many people are trying and they are using the legal process, and they are trying to postpone the whole trial also. So for which people are, there are cases which have not come onto the board even after 10 years or 15 years. So what we are proposing is, instead of waiting till the conviction of the case, people against whom charges are framed by the court, that means not charge sheeted by the police, it is not the criteria. After the charge sheet, there is a process called discharge petitions. The court hears the discharge petitions and then frames charges against the people who are cited as accused. So from that stage, a candidate should be disqualified, so that the delay in legal process we can reduce, and also we can get better candidates in the get elected to the, and they are kept away from the process. Next, electoral reforms, what we are proposing is, suppose if an MP or MLA resigns from the post before the completion of his tenure. See, for example, Munugodu election you take. Why I'm referring to Munugodu again and again is because this is the recent election that has happened in Telangana. So there, a candidate gets elected on particular party's ticket. After 3 years, he says, I want to switch over to another party. And he resigns from the MLA's post. So then elections become mandatory. So what we are proposing is, in such a situation, don't conduct by-elections. The person who stood number 2 in the earlier election should be made the MLA for the remaining term. So this is what is the proposal which we are making. This is another reform which we are proposing. Next is, of course, Election Commission's appointment. The Supreme Court has already given a judgment on this. Earlier, the central government, whomever they want, they could post him as an election commissioner. Now that issue has been dealt with by the Supreme Court, and a collegium has been made. That is, it is the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and Chief Justice of India. This group will decide who should be the election commissioner. This we have proposed, and fortunately, it has been taken care by the Supreme Court, and now it has become the rule. Because what happened is, one particular election commissioner was made to, one particular IAS officer from Punjab cadre, he was made to resign and take voluntary retirement. Before his papers got approved, within 20 hours, he was appointed as the election commissioner. That has brought a lot of doubts on the process. So then somebody has gone to the Supreme Court, and in fact, we proposed this electoral reforms, and we were also suggesting this. Unfortunately, this electoral reform has come. Then, political parties should be brought under the Right to Information Act. This is another thing we are asking. So under Right to Information Act, political parties, because I am electing a member from that political party as my representative. So as a voter, I should have the right to know about various things about political parties. So this is another reform which we are proposing. Then the process of voter enrollment. Generally what happens is a short bracket is given for voter enrollment exercise. But what we are proposing is, in India, what happens is, if you want to register Aadhaar, there is a counter that is kept. There are offices which have been opened. You can go at any time and you can register your Aadhaar. Like that, why not I register my voter card also? So like you are opening a shop or opening an office for registration of Aadhaar card. So why not you do it for the voter card also? This is another reform which we are suggesting. Then there is a concept called electoral bonds and 100% exemptions for donation to political parties. So in the process, what is happening is many people are giving their money or contributing only to the parties which are in power. So that is making it's an unlevel field, because the level playing field is not there. So what we are suggesting is, let people contribute through electoral bonds, let people contribute to the political parties, but instead let them not go to the political parties, but let them go to the election commission's account. Let that money be used to improve the process of election and implementing the electoral reforms. So otherwise what is happening is, if you see the ruling parties in the center and the ruling parties in the states, they are getting the maximum money so that they can spend money and they can display their wealth and they can campaign more, they can organize bigger meetings so that it will influence the voters. Suppose if I want to contest as a candidate, I don't have money. So how can I compete with a party which is having so much money? Is it not the mockery? Is it not, you are not creating a level playing field? So that's why we have suggested this electoral reforms. Then there is a concept called nota, none of the above, in the EVMs. What happened is, the voting is very secret. Earlier, what used to happen is, one person had gone into the polling booth, and after seeing the list of candidates, he said he doesn't want to give his vote to any one of them, but he wants to make an entry like that. Then a form used to be there. In that form, he is supposed to say, I have entered the polling booth, but I did not like any of the candidates, so I am not tendering my vote. And then he has to sign. Then the concept of secrecy has gone, because my name is disclosed. So that's why the the Supreme Court of India has taken up this issue and said, on the EVM, there should be a button called a nota, none of the above. Now the question is, if nota gets more vote than the candidates, what is going to happen? Suppose if all the candidates in that particular constituency, people feel that they are not good, then you have an option to go for nota. Now, if nota gets more votes, what is going to happen? So our suggestion is, if nota gets more votes than the contesting candidates, then a re-election should be held with different candidates. All these candidates should be removed because people did not want them. So let each political party come out with another candidate and let the election be held there, so that the people also can threaten the parties also. If you don't field a proper candidate, we are going to exercise this weapon of nota and we can get better candidates being fielded by you. So this is another reform which we are proposing. Then opinion polls. Now, if you see, the moment Karnataka elections are announced, some news channels or the social media groups, they started giving their opinion polls. So this party will get these votes, this party will get these votes. Because exit polls are banned. But how about opinion polls? Because opinion polls are also going to influence the thought process of the people. So what we are suggesting is, let there not be opinion polls also, whether by the regular media or also social media. Then campaigning. If you see the campaigning, political parties with a lot of money, they hold big meetings. People attending in lakhs, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. After the meeting is over, these news channels will say, people being given biryani packets, people being given money. That means people are being brought to these meetings to influence the neutral voters. That means this political party is having so much of popularity. So there is a concept in the voters also, because of my vote, the candidate should get elected. Ante gelupu gurralu antam itla. So because of my vote should not get wasted. My vote should go to a candidate who is going to win the election. So that is the concept. That influence is being done by these big meetings or big sabhas. So what we are suggesting is all these types of holding big meetings, big public meetings should not be there. Let the campaigning is only restricted to door-to-door campaigning, TV discussions on equitable basis, maybe newspaper advertisements are also on equitable basis, and expenditure by the party should be included in candidate expenditure. Now, what I told earlier is, now it is 95 lakhs for an MP candidate. That doesn't include the expenditure by the party. Suppose if I am put up by a well-established party, the party spends, I also spend. In the process, my chances of influencing voters is much more than the candidate who stands as an independent. So then also it is not a level playing field. So we are saying include expenditure by the party in the candidate's expenditure. So this is another reforms which you are suggesting. And then whole percentage is very, very important, because I started with the concept of vote bank politics. So what we are suggesting now is, last election 2019, if you see the poll percentage in the Lok Sabha elections is 67%. So 33% of the people have not voted. That means if I am a clever candidate, I develop a good vote bank through many things, and then I try to protect this vote bank so that I get elected. Now, our next reform, what we are suggesting is to increase the poll percentage and to facilitate the ease of voting. Let mobile phones and computers and laptops be used for casting my vote. I think in US also, you can cast your vote through the mail also, and the pre-elections, which I mean, you need to clarify. So when you are able to transfer so much of money by using my bank application, so I can transfer 10 lakhs of rupees by using just my mobile phone. So why not I cast my vote? Why not I cast my vote by using technology? You are talking about direct benefit transfer. Why not this? I think for the first time in Karnataka elections, people above 80-year-old, they need not have to go to the polling booths, but they can vote from their home. VFH, vote from home, is the concept that is being introduced. Then also, there are many voters from India who go to different foreign countries for their education, for their job, but they cannot come and cast the vote because it is quite expensive. I need to spend 2.5 lakhs to come to India just to cast my vote. So our suggestion is, why not you involve this technology for casting the vote so that the poll percentage will increase. Next is, now political parties, they do not want opposition. So they want to win all seats. If you take Andhra Pradesh, the government, the YSRCP party is saying, why not 175? And also after the elections, many people, they purchase or they try to lure the elected MLAs from the other party also. Now for that, what we are suggesting is, let there be proportionate representation of seats. Suppose if a political party gets 40% of the total votes polled, so out of the total seats, 40% of seats will go to that party. So in that process, what happens is the house becomes the real representative of the people. So say, for example, 10% of the voters have voted for this political parties. Why not 10% of the seats to this political party? So this is called proportionate representation. This we are actively propagating. So, I mean, especially about you, overseas and NRI voters are registered using Form 6A. what we are saying is, as I mentioned, they should be allowed to vote from the country using internet mobile based technology, as I already mentioned, especially the NRI voters. Then another concept which has come, the winner in an election should get at least 50% plus 1 of the votes polled. If you see the presidential election in India, the election, a candidate is declared elected if he gets 50% plus 1 vote in the presidential elections. So when you are giving so much of prominence in the presidential election, why don't you have the same thing for the candidates also? Now you see candidates with 35%, 36%, they get elected. So what is the proposition? This proposition has been made by Mr. N. Vittal, who was the Chief Vigilance Commissioner earlier. He says, conduct a runoff elections. Suppose there are 25 candidates who contest from one constituency. So they get different votes, but none of them get 50% votes. So what you do is you select the top 2 candidates and hold the runoff election after a week, so that at least 50%, the candidate MLA or MP should represent at least 50% of the people. Then only he can become a real public representative. Otherwise, he will be representing only group of people, and he will be serving only those group of people, which will make the democracy a mockery. So this is another thing. So these are some of the reforms which we thought need to be introduced, so that the process of democracy gets strengthened. The process of election will be, with much transparency, and also real representatives, they get elected. Because there are many people, when I started contesting elections, people ask me, sir, how much money you have? So this is the first question they asked. Sir, if you don't have money, your chances of winning are very, very bleak. So when voters are thinking like that, unless we change the rules of game, it becomes very difficult to get people who want to actually serve the people. Because I always say, if the minister or the chief minister is clean, then how corrupt a public servant may be or a civil servant may be, he can't do anything. Suppose if the top people, the political executive or the chief minister or the ministers, if they are corrupt, how clean a public servant or the bureaucrat may be, he can't do much. Because they find people who are convenient to them, they bring them to those posts and they rule the roost. So I always give the example of cleaning a ladder. If you want to clean a ladder, you have to start from the top. Or if you want to have a good water, your water tank should be clean. There is no point in cleaning your tap and this thing, however much you clean the tap, but if the tank is not good, it is with dirty water, then you get dirty water. So my suggestion is, if you want to improve the system, so start the cleaning process from the top. So all these electoral reforms, which I have just mentioned to you, it is a way towards ensuring a better democracy, to get better candidates, and also to get a level playing field in the democracy. So I thought, Srikant Garu, this is what is the electoral reforms which we are proposing.
Sure.
So,
they are awesome. Awesome. Anna. One question, Anna. Like
please.
Chandrachud right now is the Supreme Court justice, right?
Chief Justice.
So his father was also a Supreme Court, and he proposed one other person, and again that person proposed him, and he's going to propose the son of the other person. So this process need to be condemned and discontinued.
So this is at present the fight between the judiciary and the government is this only. Yeah. This is called the collegium concept. In fact, actually a constitutional amendment was brought to form a commission called National Judicial Appointments Commission. So there should be a commission which should sit and they should decide the suitability of a judge to be appointed either to the Supreme Court or to the High Court. But what the collegium said, the Supreme Court has struck down that particular constitutional amendment as ultra-virus, and they said, if you want to retain the independence of judiciary, so there should not be involvement of government, because government is nothing but a party which gets maximum votes in the elections, and they have their own interests. So they said we should not have any political representative or representative from the government in the judicial selection process, and this collegium system has been working well. So that's how this particular amendment has been struck down. So there is a lot of fight that is going on between the government and also between the judiciary. Especially you see the present Union Law Minister, Mr. Kiran Rijiju, who always keeps making comments about this system. And anyway, I think a discussion should always take place. It should take place, and we should always evolve a better thing, like electoral reforms, which we are proposing. Always there should be a discussion in the democracy. No system is perfect. I mean, whatever best you do, no system is perfect, but there should be reforms. So a thought process is going on about this collegium also, but now, still now, the collegium system is continuing, and because ultimately the law of the land, whatever Supreme Court says, that is the law of the land. You can't go beyond that in the existing framework of the Constitution of India.
Yeah.
And also because there is a possibility of bright lawyers being picked up also. That is the basic collegium system, what they say. Suppose if you put only the government process of promotions and then coming to the Supreme Court, the talent that is available in the market, they will not get elevated, because ultimately the Constitution has to be protected, and only judges with a good thought process and a broad mind, they can only they can protect the Constitution. But as you mentioned, there is always a plus and minus, but this fight is going on. Let us see where to which level it goes, and finally what reform it is going to. So there is a concept called judicial activism also, that is also being discussed.
Yeah.
Because judges are supposed to interpret the Constitution, and they cannot be active, and they cannot be the policy makers. That is what the legislature says. People have elected us. It is our duty to see that the policies are made for the people by us. It is our exclusive domain. The judiciary should not interfere. Judiciary can interfere only when the policy is against the Constitution, or it is against the basic framework of the Constitution. This is what. So this fight is going on, and let us see. Definitely this discussion should take place, and then something should come out. Yes.
Sure. Friends, table is open for questions. You can go ahead. Yes. Or else I have another question. So, yeah, until everyone is thinking about. So regarding the family politics in the country, so that actually is a big derailing thing. Like, you know, a democracy is not happening in a proper way, with family taking over and earning money like anything, right? So what's your say on that?
So generally what the contention is that, so suppose why family politics are there? Because many people are not willing to come to politics. That is a big problem. So I always keep educating people. Good people should come to politics. Politics also should be an option. It should be a career. But many people are not coming because of this money power. So if you can make make a level playing field, then people can come. So all these electoral reforms which you are talking about is to make the field level playing, so that anybody can aspire to become a politician. So with this restricted field, and also what the political people are doing is, they are saying that politics is very difficult, and you need a lot of money, you need your caste people to support you, then only you can enter politics. This is the type of thought process that is being, it is a ghost. It's like a ghost phenomena, which says, if you don't have these things, you can't come to politics. That's why many people say that politics is not our cup of tea. So our endeavor is to see that, it's like we say we want to go to IIT, we want to go to MBBS, or we want to go join MIT or Cambridge or Oxford. So we should develop a field saying that, at least people saying that I want to go to politics. So this is the type of aspirational thing that we need to develop. So that is possible when group of people like us come together and push these electoral reforms. So if all these electoral reforms come through, a level playing field comes. As I mentioned, the rules of the game should change, not the players. So then automatically, once the rules of the game change, then only good players will come to play the game. Because the rules are in such a way that if you are not good, you can't play the game. So, I mean, because then why only film stars, their own family members are only becoming film stars? This is another argument people say. There are many civil servants. For example, my son is an IPS officer. So they say civil servant children are getting into civil services. So political people, their children also, they come to politics. This is what is the logic. So all these logics, I mean, if you discuss throughout the day also, a solution will not come unless you bring in the electoral reforms, wherein a common man also feels I can contest the election. Yeah. I can contest the election. Then a lot of people will come and they will do it. Till that time, you can't blame these politicians because they say we have more experience because we have been seeing our parents in politics. So we have more political knowledge compared to others also. So this is what is the logic they give. So let us see, unless we bring these electoral reforms, this issue cannot be tackled.
But in Vedic age, age, there was no restriction for a downtrodden to become a leader or a king of the state. Or the change was happening very easily, right? From top to bottom, bottom to top.
Yeah, because actually, if you see the Chaturvarna also, the concept which we started, it was totally different. Because of your qualities, you are supposed to be rated. Suppose I am very good warrior. I might have been born in a Sudra community, but I will be promoted as a Kshatriya. Suppose if I am very good at my brain, even though I have born in a Sudra community, I will be branded as a Brahmin. That was the initial system. Then rating each person based on the qualities has become very difficult. So then they resorted to a system of in whichever family you born, that Varna will be attributed to you. Even though I may not be a warrior, but still because I have born in a Kshatriya community, I am branded as a Kshatriya. Even though I am very brilliant, but I have born in a Sudra family, so I am branded as Sudra. So as you mentioned in Vedic time, that was the order of the day. Even any aspirational person, he can go and could occupy any seat. But that has slowly waned away, and because my birth decides my caste or my birth decides my Varna, it is not my quality. That is the part of it. Yes. Yeah.
So hopefully this will change.
You have to change. I mean, that's what, if you read the concept of annihilation of caste by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, it was a letter written to, it was this thing, he says, the intercaste marriages are the solution to annihilate this caste business. That's what is his main suggestion. Then the caste system will go away. That is what he mentions in the Annihilation of Caste by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Yes.
Any questions, friends? You can unmute yourself.
Srikanth, I have one question. Shravan here.
Shravan, go ahead. Yeah. Next.
Namaskaram and LakshmiNarayana garu. Absolutely great points మీరు raise చేశారు and మీ ఉన్న దాంట్లో one thing I have a input అండి.
Please.
See where you said if the first person who is an MLA, sitting MLA, he lost or resigned or something, and the second person would be given an opportunity ante lost or I don't know whether if it also included a death, that would bring up more.
No, it is death is not included, sir, in that.
Okay. Then if that
otherwise
is the case,
people
then
they go and kill people. Yeah.
That's the point. Sitting here, I thought, but I know I thought I would want to clarify with you. It's only when the person wants to resign or do something.
Do something. And also his resignation, this thing also will be evolved by a committee. Whether it was a genuine resignation or it is because of something else.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. I just wanted to double check and
well appreciated, sir.
Thank you.
Well appreciated, Shravan.
Thank you.
Next, Mahi. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question? Okay.
Yeah,
JDR
please.
నమస్కారం అండి. నా పేరు
Namaste.
మహీధర్. నేను బేరియా కాలిఫోర్నియా నుండి మాట్లాడుతున్నాను.
Yes.
మీరు ఇది జ్యుడిషియరీ గురించి మాట్లాడారు. ఓకే, జనరల్ గా ఏంటంటే దేర్ ఆర్ 3 branches ఇన్ ద గవర్నమెంట్. మనందరికీ తెలుసు, ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్, లెజిస్లేటివ్ అండ్ జ్యుడిషియరీ అనేది.
Yes.
ప్రస్తుతము the way Supreme Court is getting involved in appointing the CBI director and also the chief election commissioner. Okay.
Yes.
Just putting this aside, I wanted to understand what is this power exactly? Who supposed to be appointed? I mean, who has the powers to appoint the CBI director and chief election commissioner? Is it a
Yes.
part of the executive branch, or is it a legislative or judiciary? Why is judiciary getting involved in this? Is it not the case that the executive branch is supposed to carry out and enforce the laws, which includes the executive department and independent agencies and other boards? Why is judiciary intruding into this? Is this the right way to do it, or is that as per the constitutional, is it correct?
I understood it, sir. Yes, it's a very good this thing. So basic thing is, when the legislature does their job properly, there is no need to anybody to interfere. That's what I said. When the tank is good, you get good water. So in the same process, people who are occupying those important positions, if they do their services without any any favor, or to favor somebody, or to get their own people, so then this interference by the court will not be there. Only when the things go beyond your control, like what I mentioned in the election commissioner, one person, one particular officer was made to take voluntary retirement, and within 20 hours that man gets appointed as an election commissioner. So I mean, can't they wait for some time, or can't they have a list of people, and there can't they have a transparent procedure of, because it throws a lot of doubt in the whole. That man may be very good, there is no doubt. That man may be outstanding, but means are also very important, because the concept of ends and means, as Mahatma Gandhi said, ends are very important, but the means you adopt to reach the ends are also very important. So when a lot of doubts have been put, or if you get so many doubts on the whole process, then ultimately there is nothing like finally the judiciary has to intervene. So somebody has gone to the Supreme Court saying that the whole selection process is marred with so many doubts. Then the Supreme Court issued notices to the Union Government Election Commission. Please tell us, what is the procedure for appointment of an election commissioner? They said anybody we can appoint. In that case,
I understand. Okay.
Then this particular collegium system has come. So because if you see the CBI director, the act itself says, the CVC Act itself says, the CBI director should be selected by a collegium of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and the Chief Justice of India. So at least, I mean, if there should be a semblance of responsibility, and there can't be one person, he is bulldozing and getting all his people, because Leader of Opposition, he puts forth his idea, the Prime Minister and the Chief Justice. So this is what is the collegium, to ensure that the selection is a proper these things.
Absolutely, I agree with you totally on this one. Okay, as you said, means is important. Okay, let's apply the same logic to appointment of the judges. Okay, now you have the collegium system, right? Okay, when the Supreme Court is intruding into the executive power and the legislative power, okay, and making sure that, okay, means is proper, ethically is proper. So when appointing the judges, is it not right that executive and legislature also gets involved, and the similar collegium system should be formed in order to appoint the Supreme Court judges also? Doesn't make logically right in that way? Because as earlier Srikant Garu has mentioned, that the same people, like a legacy kind, right? They are appointing, their father was there and son was appointed. In order to avoid all this confusion, same way, okay, Leader of the Opposition, Prime Minister, and the Supreme Court judge, they can sit together and appoint the judges as well. Is it not logically right? I'm just curious.
Because the concept of holy cow is always there. So everybody feels that they are good. Actually, the collegium also consists of the 5 senior most judges. The collegium also consists the 5 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. And then they decide the thing, because there are many cases in which the judges among themselves also, they generally oppose the nomination of a particular judge. That also keeps happening. Or at least make the collegium proceedings transparent. Who has said what?
Exactly.
Suppose
at least that one, or better,
yeah.
let one government or somebody else also
Yeah.
get involved and sit in the committee. Right?
Yeah,
That
they
is
can
also
come,
problem,
because
right?
one man cannot do much also, because I mean, if you go by majority voting also, it is 5 against 1. So ultimately the word of the collegium only says, unless the collegium also gets divided. And sometimes this one man also becomes very important sometimes. I mean, imagine a situation in the collegium also, where 3 or 2 on one side, 4 on one side. So this man also becomes very. So as I mentioned, a discussion should take place. I mean, rightly you pointed out, when in the selection of a CBI director and the election commissioners, when judiciary can be a member. So why not these people in the selection of a judge also? So exactly. That is a very well point. That is a valid point. That's what has been included in the National Judicial Appointments Commission, but which the Supreme Court said it is not as per constitution, and they stuck it down. So let us see, I mean, enlightened people and enlightened discussions ultimately will lead to such type of things. We are discussing now on the collegium system here. So definitely more and more for if such type of discussion takes place, then enlightened citizens, and when the demand comes from the public, so then it will be very difficult to say no to that. So it is good that we are discussing this.
Prashant has not a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on mute. Yeah, good.
Good, sir. Yeah. Namaskar, sir.
Namaste, Prashant.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please. Yes.
I'm Prashant from Dallas, sir. Like Mirannar Gada, like Nota should be included as one of the features.
Yeah.
Feature. So Kavela Nota gets majority of the votes, then we should go for re-elections.
Yeah.
So Alantapudu, like we are going to incur again re-elections, and it's added up with the costs, and it's not a small thing, big thing. So I mean, how does we tackle it? How does it take?
Because these types of instances will be very minimal to start with. I mean, it is not that if you see the Nota votes also in general elections, suppose the election in which I contested, the Nota votes were, I think, about 60,000 or so. Whereas the total electorals were about, total voters were about 12 lakhs. So the candidate who got the maximum votes is about 4,40,000. So still, that what I'm telling is that threat should be there to the political parties. That I mean, if people exercise their Nota option, so you don't have an option but to change your candidate. So that with that threat, they will field better candidates for the voting. It's a threat. So, I mean, actually, this was tried in Gujarat, I think Ahmedabad, the municipal elections, and also in Maharashtra state elections also. So they said it was a threat, and actually political parties started fielding good candidates. So ultimately, we want good people to be there in the election fray, and good people should sit in the assemblies and parliaments, and they should make good policies for the people and good enactments, legislations for the people. That is what it is. So it is going to be more a threat. It is going to be more a threat. Yeah.
But it's a rare thing to happen, right, sir?
Yeah, it's a rare thing. But I mean, it's all again enlightened voters and voting percentage. If we can increase this, then we should try from all directions to improve the system. Yeah. Right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Prashant.
So next, anyone else?
Yeah, or lekothe nenu adocha Srikan garu.
Okay, main point.
Sure.
LakshmiNarayana, this is about the nationalistic politics across the world, and the liberals thrusting their thought process and dismantling the nationalistic parties and nationalistic governments across the world. What's your take on that?
Actually, if you see the another point which is being contested is the multi-party system what we have in our country. So they say we should also come down to a two-party system, because so many regional parties coming up and they are actually disturbing, and there are many this thing. Like what you have in US is a two-party system. So you can't go beyond that. So that's why regional parties, they always raise the regional concept and regionalism, this thing. As you said, the nationalistic concept will not be there. But actually, if you see the regional parties, they are dominated by one individual. Generally, if you see, it's all by one person. They are like the CEO of a company. He decides.
Yeah.
And I mean, he can say if he doesn't like a face, he can ask that fellow to go. This is what is happening. That is ultimately leading to this thing like what you have kingdoms and fiefdoms and kingdoms. That is what it is. Racharikamantama. Ade style ante they are becoming Rajulu, Vallu Samantulu, ee vidhanga tayarautundi. So in order to counter that, I mean, that is another concept called we should have only national parties. That's why national parties concept also has come. A party which gets so many votes or so many seats. This is what is how there are about 7 or 8 parties in India which are named as the labeled as the national parties. So all others are state recognized parties. So that is what it is there. But there is another concept is the regional parties, they represent people much better. That's why if you see their voters are also very intelligent. For the state MLAs, Vidhan Sabha or Legislative Assembly, they elect a regional party. But for if you come to the Lok Sabha elections, they vote for the national parties. The same thing happened in Delhi, for example. Aam Aadmi Party, they elected about, I think, 67 out of 70. But when it came to parliament election, all the 7 MPs, they elected the BJP. So that is how, I mean, the voters are also thinking who is closer to us. Another important thing is what a voter expects from an MLA also is very, very tricky. The voter's expectation is that he should come with me to the police station. You should come with me to the MRO office. You should attend a wedding in my family. If there is any bereavement, you should come. These are the expectations of people from the local. If I don't get water from my tap, the MLA should interfere. That means this is what is the expectation. Actually, MLAs and MPs are supposed to sit there and they have to form legislations and they have to enact legislations and the policies. But the entire thing has gone. Whoever is coming closer to us, that person is getting. So the voter education is also very important. As I was mentioning, on National Voters Day on 25th January, the Election Commission educates people. So my intention is constitution and legislation should be a compulsory subject in all classes. That's what I say. Suppose once somebody gets admitted into, say, an engineering course, he doesn't know what constitution is. He doesn't know what a law is. He may be a professor or he may be CEO of a company. Suppose if he gets a phone call from a police station, he's in jittery. Many people keep calling me. They're all CEOs of pharma companies. Sir, some phone call came from a police station, what I should do. That means I always say we are not educating people legally. So legal education should be there. Constitutional education should be there. Then a society which is much more aware, the governance also improves. The political people also, they will always see that people are much aware. So why in developed countries, the whole concept of politics is different. The way the politicians behave is different because the society is enlightened. I mean, they come in normal transport and they drive, they come to this thing driving themselves, and they use the metros or the local trains to reach their places. So this is what is the thing, because the voters are enlightened, they keep observing their representative also. Any deviation from here and there, they don't accept, like what is happening with Mr. Trump now. So that is what is being discussed all over the world. So this enlightened society is very, very important. So that's why I must say that, I mean, until the time comes, and generally slowly the thing will go towards nationalist parties only. So as we are seeing, So, but it will take time. But it will take time because the caste and religion caste is especially playing a very important role in regional politics.
Right.
So that is where the regional parties are playing a very important role. Yeah. Once that caste system goes, then automatically national thinking will start.
Now,
Because
George
the movement,
Soros is one person who wants all the nationalistic governments across the world go away.
Can you repeat, Shrikant?
George Soros is a guy who lives in London, right? Wants all the nationalistic parties to go away. So I don't know how far he will be successful.
But anyway, he has sown a seed. Let this discussion take place.
Sure.
Always many changes come once the discussions take place. That is important. Yes.
Any question, brothers?
Sir, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Venkat Garu.
This will be the last question, Anna. We've been here almost 1 hour.
Sir, LakshmiNarayana, thank you so much, Andy. Thanks for taking your time to it's a great privilege for us to have a session with you. Sir, indaka meer anna topic which is a great thing that you have raised. Voter education అనేది చాలా important. ఈ పార్లమెంటరీ ఎలక్షన్ సిస్టమ్ లో సార్ మన కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ చూసుకుంటే త్రీ లెవెల్ సిస్టమ్. సో ఫస్ట్ లెవెల్ సిస్టమ్ is the constituent itself, who is contesting. So meer anna point ke who is attending my wedding, or who is closer to us, dan tarvata enta personal relationship unnadi, bereavement, all these things are being taken into consideration, right? But however, his actual activities or duties, the constitutional duties, whether he is able to perform or not, that nobody is aware. Okay, because people are not aware. Unkokati vachesi chuste party ideologies, right? So what does that party stand for, and who is running the party? How have they formed that party? Anedi education anedi takku unnadi. Then final third thing vache varki, all the constituents who got elected has to elect the leader. Okay. So whereas coming to US it is a presidential election system where you're voting for the candidate itself. So where you will judge the candidate's qualities directly. Ikkada vachvarki ee parties vachesi manifesto antaru, which nobody is aware, right? So a lot of those things consist of freebies ankondi atlage pothundi. So now as a neutral person, okay, or as a person who a person like you who has led so many things, so what would you suggest? Because there are so many platforms, YouTube ochindi, Google, enno platforms unnai kada, like is there a checklist that you can propose that these are the qualities that you need to see in a parliamentary system of election before voting, especially India being the largest or one of the largest population, young population. So how
there is a book, I don't know whether you are able to see this or not.
100 things.
It's right, 100 things you should know before you vote. 100 things to know and debate before you vote. So there are 100 points which you should see. As you said, no, it's a checklist which you should make before electing a candidate. So this is a very good book. And also there is another book by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. It is called A Change Manifesto. So in which he talks about the performance of our elected representatives. He says how many hours he attended the parliament. If you see the live session of parliament, half the parliament will be vacant. Nobody will be sitting there. So how many hours he attended, how many questions he raised, how many private bills he introduced, how many issues he has taken up, how he has used his local area development funds, how much change he has brought in the thought process of the people. So these are certain parameters which should actually be displayed for a candidate to be elected by the people. So as you are mentioning, when the whole election is based on merit, when you compare the candidates based on their merit, then these issues come. But the considerations, what you mentioned, is different. I mean, the consideration is he belongs to which caste, how much money he is able to give me, and whether he is going to be available to me, So these are certain factors which people take into consider. So again, as I mentioned, voter education becomes important, especially in schools and colleges, because now 18 years is the voting age in India. So that means they just complete their 12th standard and they become eligible. So we are not educating them at the, and if you see India, because of the demographic dividend, we have maximum of them. So they being taken away by the sentiments and passions.
Yes.
This is what is called as the post-truth phenomenon. Correct. That means you cater to the sentiments and emotions of people, then you get elected. Correct. So religion is one thing, caste is one thing. As Karl Marx said, religion is a opium. So you can always drive people or attract people through your religion or your caste. So all these considerations, if you can take out, that is possible, as I was mentioning, increase the voting percentage. Make people responsible. We are suggesting even people do not vote, they should be penalized. If you see Australia, voting is compulsory. If you don't vote, your income tax, you have to pay more income tax. You will not be eligible for many other facilities. So such type of, I always say there are two things, Bhayamu, Bhakti.
Yeah.
Bhakti unnod tappu cheyedu. Bhakti lenodiki bhayam betta. So if people are not following, put fear in them.
Correct.
So you will not be eligible for a scheme. You have to pay double the ticket. You have to buy petrol at this rate, or you have to buy the gas at double the rate.
You have more than 3 kids, you cannot vote.
That's what also. Yeah. Actually, in local elections, I think if you have more than 2 kids, you can't contest in local body election. Yeah, that has come already. That has come already. Yeah.
Voting
not
also.
So like something we should do. So that at least,
international relations and India in the center of that. So India is now able to dictate terms to every country in the world. Like they are equidistant to US, China, and Russia. So how is this possible?
Actually, we have right from beginning, we have the non-aligned concept. This earlier also NATO and Axis groups and all, we never aligned with any particular
we
group.
Not yield power, we did not yield power that time. Now people are listening to us.
Now because of the economic progress in the country, now all comparison of the various states is on economic power. Now we are talking about 5 trillion economy. So, and also we have become a big market. And also just no country can brush aside India. Because we opened up in 91, thanks to P.V. Narasimha Rao Garu. We opened up in 91, liberalization and globalization, and joining the CAT and other things. They made significant changes, and we have also become a big player in the world market. Because many countries, they look at it as a market. Because so many 140 crore population, 1.4 billion population is not a small number. Even each one of them buy one product. I mean, the other countries, they made it. So, and also our foreign policy also, and also especially the present dispensation, the way the present, say, the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, and also the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, going and visiting various countries and also establishing this rapport and other these things. And also US, basically US-China conflict also, that is also going in our favor. And also the Belt Road Initiative, which they have started, and so many economies are getting ruined, and influence of China on the world. All these things are making India very, very important. And also the COVID, which has started from China, the manufacturing and all, it shifted from China and it is moving elsewhere. Maybe I think Vietnam and other. So it is the time for us to take that advantage. So all these things. So definitely the international relations have improved. There is no doubt. And also we are making very good in the international forum also. And also you are all the representative of our nation in the foreign countries also. Because you also make the opinion different about our country and this thing. Because you are all ambassadors of India in US or elsewhere. So all these things, they are going to contribute. And let us see, we should definitely grow, and we should definitely become a very important player in the international field also.
Soon we'll become the 3rd biggest economy. And
the economy, yes, we are going good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Anna.
Yeah, thank you, Srikanth.
Come back to you, and we'll
Yeah,
share
sure.
with everyone who did not join.
No
There's so
issues,
many
no
downloads.
issues. Right.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you very much. Namaste. All the best. Huh?